you're saying that these things on the shroud, say nobody even knew about Jesus, right? You're saying, if I'm understanding correctly, that this piece of linen shows a man that went through those particular things. So say
Right.
yeah, all right. So say there's a person out there who's never researched the resurrection, and they're like, oh, there's a crown, there was something that pierced the head, there's something on the shoulder, there's this, there's that equals, hey, this shroud, this piece of linen is very unique for this time frame because of the amount of blood, where it's at. Am I onto something with that?
Yeah, I would use the word correspondence. There's an overlap,
Yes.
or there's a correspondence between the evidence of the crucified man in the shroud and the way that we know Jesus was crucified, which was utterly unique in the Roman world for its time. Again, you didn't always fashion a crown of thorns and stick it on. Again, they knew he called himself the King of the Jews. They were mocking him. Normally, there would be broken bones. Sometimes, if I'm being interviewed on a really fast show, I might say he had a broken nose. And what I mean by that, I don't mean the bone of his nose was broken, but I do mean that the ligaments were broken. The man in the shroud, his nose is actually pushed over to the side.
I've noticed that. Okay. I've seen photos,
beaten.
and I'm like, that nose looks okay.
The right side of his face is like he's been in a heavyweight bout. So there are things that, again, correspond to the way in which that Jesus was crucified. And again, the most detailed account that we have of Roman crucifixion antiquity come from 4 books that you may have heard of: Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, and then the book of Josephus. So those are some of our best sources, according to Bible scholars, related to the crucifixion. And so the gospel writers really help us out. And so what I began to see was a correspondence between the way in which, so then you have to ask yourself, if this is a forgery, if this is a hoax, how do you know these certainties about Jesus of Nazareth, the way in which he was crucified? And that's where it sent me down a path of really checking out this deeper, to where it's like, hey, if I'm going to stake my academic reputation on this, I need to learn more about it.
Yeah, you already have a very good point, because even in my head of asking questions, that would be very difficult to explain away.
Yeah, well, and if we are a medieval forger, Melissa, if you and I are living 700 years ago, like the carbon-14 dating espoused that the shroud is the 14th century hoax, there are details in the shroud that we would not know, to details in there we would have never put in there if we were trying to come up with something that was acceptable to the time, but certainly not historical. For example, the Jesus in the medieval period is very effeminate. He doesn't have a full beard. The man on the shroud is a very masculine man, full beard, nearly 6 feet tall. We would have painted him on there as